The plot begins on a warship, where two women flee from a group of armored men. As the soldiers block their path, the strong-built woman leaps to meet them. She killed the soldiers with a single swift strike of her sword. Catalina assures the blue-haired woman beside her that they will be fine. Once the threat has been removed, a man's mocking voice forces them to stop dead in their tracks as they advance cautiously and carefully. The man mockingly tells Catalina that it's not fair for her to flee when they can finally put their research to the test. He pulls out a mysterious jar containing a glowing crystal. The crest embedded in Lyria's chest emits the same purple glow as the crystal, causing Lyria to gasp in pain. When Lyria's collapses from pain, Catalina rushes to her aid and angrily orders the man to stop. Still, the man mocks Catalina further. Suddenly, Lyria's eyes glow a shade of blue, causing the mysterious crystal in the jar to burst, resulting in a massive explosion that destroys the warship elsewhere on a peaceful and quiet island where everyone coexists in harmony. Gran, a young man, is seen cutting wood and telling a friend that he aspires to be a sky fairy one day and is looking forward to using his swordsmanship. Vyrn, a talking dragon, and a man entered together and greeted Gran. They were talking when they noticed a distant explosion in the sky. Then a strange light fell from the sky and into the forest. Gran was intrigued, so he investigated the situation, accompanied by Vyrn. Gran goes deeper into the forest in search of the mysterious light. Vyrn notices that, despite the explosion, there is no fire or smoke, but the forest is strange. They come across the source of the light just as Vyrn tells Gran to turn around, Lyria, unconsciously creating the light that brought Gran to the forest with their crest glinting in the sunlight. When Lyria awakens from her coma, she is startled by Gran's presence, who assures her that he means no harm. After the misunderstanding is cleared up, Gran apologizes for scaring her. Vyrn wondered who Lyria was because he hadn't seen her. When the gentleman, Gran, decides to introduce himself, Lyria shifts her attention to Vyrn and looks down hesitantly. When they exchange introductions, she exclaims and refers to him as a talking lizard. Lyria tells him she was in a dark room before Catalina found her. As she recalls the events, she frantically inquires of Gran about Catalina's whereabouts, even though he has never heard of her. Gran gets up after Lyria gives him a vague description of Catalina and tells Lyria they will find Catalina together. As he assists Lyria, he warns her that there are monsters in the forest and that they should return to the village for the time being. However, as soon as he finishes speaking, the soldiers searching for Lyria rush toward them. While Gran is putting the soldiers in their proper places, one of them sends a signal indicating Lyria's presence. Gran inquires about the soldiers as Lyria and Gran run. Lyria then informs Gran that they are from the Earth Day Empire, which has a reputation for moral turpitude. Catalina reappears, slaying all the men simultaneously as they pause for a breath. Catalina introduces herself to Gran and Vyrn by telling them she was once the Empire's lieutenant. Gran insists on assisting them as the group resumes their journey after Catalina informs her that they will soon leave this location. Captain Palmer, the man pursuing Lyria, blocks their path and summons a Hydra, seriously injuring Gran. When she sees him fall to the ground, she enters his subconscious mind and assures him everything will be fine. As Perman orders his soldiers to kill everyone and return Lyria to the Empire, Gran awakens from the dead, looks around, and asks her what happened to him because he feels different. The sky darkens as Lyria and Gran stand beside each other, emitting a bright light as they raise their hands. Following a massive flash of light, a magnificent dragon appears before everyone, summoning a deity known as Bahamut. Lyria begs the dragon Bahamut to save her as the colossal Bahamut enters the scene and makes Pomeran's Hydra look like a farce. Lyria requests that Bahamut assists her with the magical crystal in his hand. Palmer orders the Hydra to move forward and finish what he began. The Hydra directs a fire attack on Bahamut, growling loudly and flapping his massive wings in the sky. Palmer laughs menacingly, thinking that because he can't use his hands, Bahamut is all talk and no show. Still, the color on his face quickly fades when he witnesses Bahamut's overflowing energy with one quick attack. When the impact dust settles, Bahamut obliterates the Hydra, and Pomeran panics because he now stands in a complete wasteland. He then decides to perform the wise sting by scaring his soldiers back to the Empire. Catalina looks at Bahamut after Pomeran's retreat and remarks on Lyria's immense power. Meanwhile, Gran inquires Lyria about Bahamut, and she explains how Bahamut assisted them. When she touches the crest on her neck, Bahamut vanishes inside the crystal embedded in the crest. Once Bahamut is gone, Gran finds himself fading into unconsciousness. In his unconscious state, he travels back to when he was a young boy on top of a green hill. He reads a letter from his father, who tells him he looks forward to his arrival in Estelusia, the astral island. Vyrn soon finds him and tells him about his father's experiences in Estelusia. Gran expresses his eagerness to become a skyfarer and experience the adventures described by his father for himself. However, his daydreaming is rudely interrupted by his childhood friend Aaron, who informs him that the island of the Astrals is nothing more than a myth. Aaron's father arrives on the scene and breaks up the fight after lightly scolding the two boys. Gran is politely told to take it easy by Aaron's father, who tells him that he has entrusted him with becoming a skyfarer and that an opportunity will soon present itself. Still, he advises Gran to take it slowly until then. When Gran opens his eyes, he sees that he is in bed with Lyria, who is there to greet him. At the same time, Louisa is checking his body for any signs of injury. Grandma rises from bed, smelling fresh and clean. As soon as Vyrn appears, he immediately starts hitting Gran, which causes Gran to become concerned. Catalina quickly becomes a member of the police force and updates Gran on the situation, informing him that the Imperial soldiers have retreated and that no one else was hurt besides Gran. After that, she breaks the news to Gran, although she does so reluctantly. Vyrn quickly steps in and claims to have witnessed Lyria being healed by her magical abilities. However, Catalina tells him that magic cannot bring the dead back to life as Gran sits down to listen to Catalina explain the situation. Catalina explains the situation to Gran and reveals to him that the Empire has been conducting research on the power of the primal crystals and that Lyria is the piece of the puzzle that has been missing. Because Lyria possesses the power of primal crystals, she can exert her will over the primal beasts that inhabit the island inhabited by the Astrals. Lyria is interrupted by Vyrn, who reveals to her that she is one of the legendary Astrals who have the ability to control beasts. However, Catalina denies this, asserting that the Astrals have been extinguished for a very long time and that Lyria is unaware of who she is. Lyria then informs Gran that she has merged her life force with his, which suggests that their two bodies and one soul cannot be separated. As a result, for Gran to continue living, he is required to travel with Lyria and Catalina to the island where the Astrals reside. After explaining the situation to Gran, Lyria, and Catalina apologize to him. Gran quickly assuaged their concerns by assuring them he appreciated Lyria's assistance and will gladly accompany them on their journey. When the group returns to the village, they are greeted with a grand feast prepared by the villagers. Gran announces his intention to leave with Lyria and Catalina but is disappointed by Aaron. Aaron speaks up and attempts to reason with Gran, but his father tells him to stop because this has always been Gran's lifelong dream. When Aaron realizes his father is on the right, he asks Gran glumly if he will return to the village. Gran assures Aaron that he will return soon. Meanwhile, everyone bursts out laughing as a result of Lyria's stomach rumbling. Soon, the villagers, along with Lyria and Catalina, forget their worries by feasting on the meal prepared for them. The following day, Aaron and his father visited Vyrn, Gran, Lyria, and Catalina. They have a rocky start as Catalina attempts to start her airship, but they soon find themselves safely flying in the sky. Looking down from the airship, Gran notes how small their island looks from above. Later, an alarm sounds, indicating that something has gone horribly wrong inside the airship, which has made an unplanned stop at the aerial island of Ingana. A man arrives to inspect the wrecked airship while Catalina, Gran and Lyria recover from the crash landing. He asks various questions about the accident, but when he is answered by silence, he thinks to himself that this airship may never fly again. He then inquires about the temperature and power load after grumpily inquiring about the helmsman and receiving a hum in response. Catalina hesitates to respond. After reprimanding Catalina for ruining the perfect airship, the man leaves, saying he has much to deal with in his business. Then Vyrn suggests finding a place to rest. When they arrive in town, they notice an airship carrying cargo on the island and decide to head in the same direction. Lyria is taken aback when she sees people in airships. Catalina then informs her that this location is a hub for island-to-island travel and that business is always brisk as people visit Ingana for trade. Gran asks if they can get an airship, but Catalina says it's out of their budget for now, but they can continue their journey via passenger ships. Catalina also informs the group that they will be safe on the island for the time being because Ingana refuses to obey the Empire's rule, which means the military cannot act out publicly. Catalina discovers a cat after renting a hotel for their stay and loses her cool when she notices Gran's expression. Lyria informs him that Catalina enjoys cute things. The next day, when Catalina goes to buy tickets for their trip, she is astounded to discover that there are no passenger flights. When she asks for the next flight, the woman tells her she's unsure and puts them on the waiting list. Gran notices a grand airship and goes to investigate it, he exclaims when he sees how giant the airship is. As he tells Gran about the ship's logistics, the man they first met on the island greets them and compliments Gran on his taste. Vyrn observes that he is knowledgeable about ships. The man introduces himself as Rackham and shows the group his broken airship. Just then, a man and woman dressed oddly appear and greet Gran and Lyria. The man named Drang says they have an extra airship he can give them. To sweeten the deal even more, he throws in some treats, which Vyrn eagerly attempts to take. Lyria tells him to stay put because Catalina warned them about stranger danger, and Drang unwittingly surrenders to his partner's strum. Drang advises the group to leave the island immediately or face the consequences. When Gran, Lyria and Vyrn are trapped, Gran raises his sword to fend off Drang's attacks. Luckily, Rackham discovers the group and leads them through an underground passage that leads back to the port, where they reunite with Catalina, and Rackham leaves the group. They plan their next move in a diner, where they will be greeted by a talking parrot and a dwarf girl named Sirocart, who will make them an offer on a used ship. Catalina informs the locals that Sirocart's diminutive stature is due to her being a Harvan, people who remain short as adults. As Catalina tells Sirocart about her problems, Sirocart tells her that finding a helmsman will be difficult, especially since they are short on funds. A group of men at their table overhear their conversation and tell them about Rackham, a helmsman who spends his time working on a broken airship. Later, Gran and Lyria insist that Catalina requested Rackham to be their captain. The group is on their way to see Rackham when they come across a magnificent airship. In Rackham's absence, the group applauds his efforts. Suddenly, soldiers from the Empire appear, forcing Gran and her friends to take cover under the command of an insufferable short woman named Furious. The soldiers guard the island, and when one of them tells Furious that his decision to destroy the entire island is a bit extreme, he kills one of his men. Captain Furia's attention was diverted when Lyria, Gran and Catalina witnessed the murder of the gasping horror, and he ordered his soldiers to investigate the source of the noise. A fire attack on their hiding place forced Catalina and Lyria Gran to reveal themselves. When Captain Furious saw Catalina, he mockingly addressed her by her old title and then averted his gaze to Lyria, calling her a fugitive while ordering his men to capture everyone. Rackham surprises Furious with an attack. Rackham soon finds himself aboard the ship Grandcipher, the love of his life. Grandcipher is a disobedient ship because she refuses to fly. When Rackham awakens from a dream in a safe house, he attempts to manipulate her. He notices a commotion near his adoring Grancypher. He then praises himself and implies that people cannot leave the island because of him. When Captain Furious confirms Catalina's concerns, he reveals that once he received permission to demolish the island, he took extra precautions to ensure that no one escaped. He then laughs and tells Catalina it's too late for her to do anything. Just as he orders his soldiers to apprehend them, an unexpected gunshot breaks his chair, causing Furious to tumble down the hill, and the soldiers scatter. When a gunshot hits Gran, he discovers an underground passageway, leading Catalina, Lyria, and Vyrn down it. The path ahead lights up as they walk, which makes Catalina nervous, but Gran assures her that everything will be fine. Rackham, their savior, greets Gran and tells him he believes he saved their lives. Rackham then leads the group to his safe house, where they notice various ship-related drawings and tools. He then asked the group what they were doing outside. Rackham's question causes everyone to look at each other nervously, so he assures them that he's not interested in their business and wants to know what they're up to next. Gran replies to his ship that they were looking for him because they heard he used to be a helmsman. After hearing this, Rackham refuses to be their helmsman and informs the group that he only wants to fly with Grancypher. He then tells the group that it has been his childhood dream to fix up Grancypher and get her flying since he was a child. As he grew older, he gathered parts for her and worked tirelessly on her. When he finally got her in the air, they were hit by a rare gust of wind and crashed. Grancypher has refused to budge since then. Rackham employs an old sailor saying, his ship simply does not believe in him. Gran thanks him and pats him on the back, telling him he can teach him to fly. Catalina notices that the soldiers have temporarily withdrawn. Still, because Furious has threatened to destroy the island, they must warn the civilians as the group leaves to inform them that Rackham has decided to join them. In the meantime, Captain Fierce berates his soldiers for being unable to save him from the fall and for letting the girls flee and cryptically asks them if everything is prepared. However, as the group approaches the island, they are hit by a strong gust of wind. Vyrn expresses his concerns about the soldiers to Catalina, who tells him that the Empire once had a weapon capable of decimating the entire island, but Strum and Drang blocked their path. Catalina is immediately informed and questions the duo about their plans when they refuse to answer. Strum pulls out her sword while Drang brings his own weapons to the table. As the battle begins, the skies become darker and darker. The cheerful assassin makes one last attempt to persuade the group to join him, but when they refuse, Drang sarcastically wishes them luck and flees. As Drang leaves, the group begins to piece together what happened and concludes that the bad weather is connected to Furious's evil plan in the city. This is because the strong winds have caused the civilians to seek shelter inside a sturdy building. Rackham then abandoned his desire to ride Grancypher and stepped up to transport women and children to safety just as they arrived at the port. Furious destroys the last remaining airship and informs the people that the island is home to a wind goddess, but her true identity is that of a primal beast known as Tiamat. Lyria asks Rackham to get her close to Tiamat while Furious continues to laugh maliciously. Rackham then leads the group to their last hope, Grancypher. Vyrn expresses concern about the ship. Rackham believes Grandchild foresaw this day, and she's finally ready to take to the skies. As the ship proudly takes flight, his faith in Grancypher is validated. Gran smiles and asks Rackham to bring them closer to Tiamat, the wind goddess, and to leave everything to him as he proudly maneuvers Grancypher through the air. Thanks for watching. If this series is the most liked in my anime recap production, I will make a part 2. Also, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to help me make more content.